Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to an old school traditional style match preview video where we're about to talk about Celtic versus Aberdeen as the Scottish Premiership resumes this weekend. After a long and boring international break, the club football is back and Celtic face one of their toughest challenges thus far in the 2024-25 campaign. It's Celtic against the title challengers. Let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. We're trying to get as close as we can to 50,000 subs this year. So if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button. And very quickly, if you're wondering, Ryan, where's the Celtic the Thunder? If you missed the news about that, we will be out with a show on Monday. We had to cancel last minute due to some unforeseen circumstances. Essentially, we couldn't get to the studio because the studio wasn't available. It's as simple as that. We got a last minute cancellation from the guys over at G4. But everything's good. We'll be in on Monday to make up for it. So we'll be previewing the Atalanta game and reviewing what goes on this weekend. In case you were wondering where it is, that's what happened. Anyway, let's get talking about this game. Well. Who'd have thought it, eh? Who'd have thought we'd have moved into this game at the weekend against Aberdeen in the situation that we're in right now? Who'd have thought on match day one we'd have been talking about Aberdeen in the fashion that we are right now? I mean, they have started their campaign the exact same way Celtic have. We've been talking about how good our season's been and how good we've been domestically, winning 7 out of 7 games in the league, being in the cup semi-final. Aberdeen have matched that stride for stride. The only difference is goal difference at the minute. But in terms of results, well, here's the league table. Aberdeen, 7 wins out of 7, 21 points, matching Celtic for their record as things stand and solidifying themselves as Celtic's current title challengers. And I'm not just saying that to wind Rangers fans up. Honestly, I'll hold my hands up if I'm hard and say, listen, I love a wind up. And I do love a wind up. But right now, Aberdeen look like the second best side in the country. From the league standings and from the performances on the park. I feel more threatened going into this game tomorrow afternoon than what I felt going into the derby back at the end of August, start of September. 100%. And if you don't believe me in that, if you think as a Rangers fan I'm just saying that to get a bite, I'm not. I genuinely fear Celtic dropping points tomorrow more than I did against Rangers back then. They have started their season brilliantly. Jimmy Tillane has come in and revitalised a sleeping giant in Scottish football. You know, this is the side who should be comfortably the best side outside the top 2. Easily. I think they're a much bigger club than Hearts. I think they should have a lot better resources than Hearts. But for the last few years, especially since Derek McInnes left the side, they've been struggling. And Jimmy Tillane has woke them up. He's got them playing football. And tomorrow they come to Celtic Park as legitimate, incredible challengers to Celtic. There's the squeaky chair going. And I'm looking forward to the game for so many different reasons. We've got a hell of a lot to talk about. God, where do you begin? We've already brought up the man himself, Jimmy Tillane, who has come in and grabbed headlines for how well he's got Aberdeen performing. So much so that he was linked with the Wolves job, should Gary O'Neill face the sack. Crazy. His name's already been floated with English Premier League jobs when he's been in Scotland for, and I don't mean this in a cheeky way, 5 minutes. He's been here for 7 games in the league and he's already, apparently on shortlist down south. That's how well Aberdeen are playing and that's how impressive they've been. This is a side that still has a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that were there last season. This Aberdeen side that we laughed at last year and laughed at over the last couple of years, it's not like he's come in, he's ripped it up and, it's a fresh starting 11 out there. Yeah, they've lost big hitters like, of course, your man that went to Girona, whose name has just suddenly slipped my head. Miovski, there we go. Don't know why, he just vanished for a moment there. They've lost the likes of Miovski, but they've still got a lot of the pieces that were there last season, a lot of the players who were in that Aberdeen side that were struggling, and it just shows you what can happen when you bring in a manager with an idea, with a vision, and a structure of playing football, because they're a much better side, a much more structured side now. The big advantage is tomorrow they go into the game without their top scorer, without their star player at the minute, who has fallen with an injury, which really does help Celtic. the news that came out right at the start of the month was that top scorer for Aberdeen, Papi Habib Gueye, will be out for 14 weeks up until the new year with a big injury. And of course, he started the season brilliantly. He's looking like the most sharp striker in the league at the minute, but he's now been sidelined, and it's a big advantage for us not having to deal with him. But Aberdeen in a lucky situation right now where they can turn to somebody who has scored a couple of goals since joining, and Kevin Nisbet, who was brought in as well from Jimmy Taylor in a very smart piece of business. And I think that's the thing about Aberdeen at the minute. They just look like a much better ran side. You know, they're making smarter signings, they're making different signings, and they've generally just got a much better structure playing football. They play good football, which is hard in Scotland. So tomorrow I don't think that we're going to see an Aberdeen who sit in. I think we'll see Jimmy Taylor and his Aberdeen side really go for it at Celtic Park. And I think that he's the kind of manager who will definitely be looking at Celtic's vulnerabilities from these European games in particular, or I should say the European game in particular. But even what Ross County done is he'll pick up on these things. I'm pretty sure that he'll maybe push that side high and wide to maybe try and get the advantage of players that maybe struggle when keeping up. Aberdeen haven't got a Karim Adeyemi, for goodness sake. They haven't got the players that Borussia Dortmund possess, but they've got talents on their side. They've got Jamie McGrath. They've got, Kevin Nisbet who can push out wide if he needs to. They've got goal scorers all around the park, and that's the thing. If you look at their last game when they beat Hearts 3-2, the three scorers, it was like Nicky Devlin was one of them, who's a full-back, and another one's a winger. And, the goals are coming from different places. So I think Jimmy Taylor has brought exciting football, different ways to score goals. And tomorrow we'll probably see that at least attempted at Celtic Park. This will really be a test for Celtic, and I think an even bigger test for Aberdeen. I think the biggest thing for them is the pressure is on them. For Celtic, this is the typical Saturday 3 o'clock Celtic Park game. We need to and should be winning. Anything other than a win is it's not good enough for our standards. I don't mean that in the arrogant way that some people think Celtic supporters come across. No, we should be winning. We are the best team in Scotland by a country mile. And I'm sorry, Aberdeen, we're still a country mile clear of you. Even if Aberdeen were to come and get a result tomorrow, I don't think that would change things drastically in terms of what the league expectations are come the end of the season. I don't think the Aberdeen fans will suddenly start thinking to themselves, well, the league title is going to be coming to Pittodrie at the end of the year. I think we all know where we stand. It's so early in the season for any result tomorrow to really make a huge difference in what the matchday 38 outcome will be. But I think the pressure's on Aberdeen in the sense that they've been riding this wave of positivity and emotion and really getting excited about what could be. For Celtic to then batter them tomorrow, it would just bring them right back down to earth. And I really don't think that the team themselves want that to happen. They'll be adamant to make sure that, if not leaving Celtic Park with a result, they at least leave with their heads held high. So I think we'll see a really ambitious and optimistic performance from them. I think that they'll really push us, while being resolute at the back. It'll be interesting. This is the first time we've played them, and it's a dress rehearsal for a cup semi-final in a couple of weeks as well. So, it's huge. It's a massive game. And listen, I'm treating them with every ounce of respect we should be going into tomorrow, because I say it with my chest and I stand by it. Right now, they are Celtic's closest thing to a title challenger. They look better than Rangers. I think right now they've got a better manager than Rangers. And they've not played each other yet, so that'll be interesting when that game comes around. But right now, the league table doesn't lie. They're 5 points clear of Rangers. They're our biggest rivals at the minute. So Brendan Rodgers has had his press conference this afternoon, which means we have a few updates on things regarding team selection, fitness news, amongst others. The big one that came out actually last night from Scott Burns and an exclusive for the Daily Record is that Cameron Carter-Vickers is back in Celtic training ahead of the Aberdeen clash, and a major boost to Brendan Rodgers. Scott Burns in that article went on to say that he's back in training ahead of the game this weekend, and he should be available for selection. Just depends how much Rodgers wants to expose him ahead of a game like Atalanta on Wednesday night. Should Cameron Carter-Vickers be risked ahead of such a big game where we need him? Let's be real, we need him for Wednesday. But does he also maybe need those minutes in the legs and that top-up of match sharpness? Potentially so. So that'll be an interesting one to see how Brendan Rodgers manages it. We'll talk about that in the team selection portion of the show. Greg Taylor On the other hand, looks as though he will be missing from tomorrow's game. He's not been pictured in training, and apparently is still suffering with that. Let me get this right here. I just want to make sure I get it right. Still suffering with the calf strain. So it looks as though he will not feature. James Forrest as well. Of course, he pulled out from the Scotland squad, and it looks as though he could miss as well this weekend. So yeah, 2 players missing. Huge chance for Alex Valley, but good news in regards to Cameron Carter-Vickers. So team selection then, this is what I've gone with on screen, and I think the team sort of picks itself, and yes, I am including Cameron Carter-Vickers. It's a big game. I don't think we should treat Aberdeen any lesser than what we would treat Atalanta, to be quite honest, and I think that at least 45 minutes of football probably is needed for Cameron Carter-Vickers, because he's not played in weeks now. Let's just bring into the fact here that we've had an international break. And I didn't even speak about this in the early portions of the show, but that's a big thing for Celtic to come back from this international break and pick up where, not necessarily where they left off, because our last 2 games before it were poor, but in terms of our overall season, yeah, to just keep that flow going is important. Don't get bogged down in the absence of games. Keep ourselves going. But I think that's why Vickers does need to start the game this weekend. If he doesn't, I don't think it's a huge deal. But I think for a guy who hasn't played in the best part of a month, should probably be out in the pitch and get minutes in his legs ahead of the Champions League game, because the intensity will be huge on Wednesday. It'll be a massive, massive game with a lot of pressure on them at the back. So I think that they really do need to play him and get that going. So he's in my team. Alex Valley, of course, in ahead of Greg Taylor because he's out. And apart from that, I think the team picks itself. I've gone Rio Hatate over Bernardo. I don't think that we should arse about too much with who starts and who doesn't start. I am very much still under the belief that Hatate should start against Atalanta, like I think he should have started against Dortmund. And because of that, I think that the trio of McGregor, Hatate, and Engels, there we go, should be allowed to play together just as a little bit of a rehearsal before Wednesday evening. So yeah, for me, that's the team. I think you've got to stick as close as you can to Wednesday's side, and from there, I'm confident we can get a result. It's a good team, it's a strong team, and let's get a few goals. So there you go. There is my preview ahead of tomorrow's game. We'll be back on the channel for the match reaction. So very exciting. I'm really, really intrigued to see how this game goes. Are Aberdeen as legitimate a challenger as they've made out so far? I think they could be. And it's going to be interesting to see the proof of the pudding in front of my very eyes. So, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. We'll be back in the channel with the match reaction following it. So stay with me. A weekend packed with content, hopefully, after a wee day off yesterday. So thank you. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.